Be found.
Alrighty.
All right.
Check. You're good, Bill, yeah?
Yep.
Aloha, it is Dave Lawrence. A big mahalo for catching this. We have a very special guest in the studio, and I've been looking forward to this for about a month now.
Thank you, Dave. It's wonderful talking to you on the phone.
The great Ben Vereen
Thank you.
had a conversation with me last month, and we were talking ahead of what is a multifaceted visit, right? You're not really just doing shows. You're doing speaking engagements.
Speaking engagements and teaching some master classes and visiting people and kissing babies, that sort of thing.
It's all what we would expect.
I'm running for mayor.
It sounds like sounds like you may be. Tenacity is the theme of it. Talk a little bit for
Tenacity. Tenacity is a show that we're putting together for Broadway, but the show right now is based on my CD called Stepping Out Live, and the ingredients will be towards tenacity.
Sure.
Tenacity itself means, what is your tenacity? What is your purpose? You know, it's to live life with tenacity, with purpose, with getting out there and not letting anything knock you off your mountaintop. Because there are a lot of things in society that will try to knock you off your mountaintop, and a lot of people knock themselves off their mountaintop. So the show is about, one is how I overcame. It's not so much about me, but how we overcome as a society, as a people. Because I couldn't be without you. You see, you couldn't be without me. We need each other.
I like the self-analysis of some of the times that you get knocked off the top could very well come through things that you screw up on your own.
It's your own, and as I say, it's a committee in our heads.
Right.
You know, sometimes you got to go, you're fired, and they still hang around. But the committee takes over. And sometimes we listen to the committee instead of getting quiet and listening to the silence. Because in the silence is our strength.
Right. And the reflective moments.
And reflective moments. You know, someone said, embrace the fear, because inside your fear is your strength.
Was this the kind of thing, I know you do a lot of motivational speaking, so when I think of the kind of rap, when you sum up what tenacity is about, is this some of the kind of thing you do when you're talking to someone and you're doing a lecture? I mean, did you get the idea for tenacity from doing those? Or?
Yeah, I believe so. And from all my travels and talking with people and finding their stories and what we have in common. And that has a strong part to do with it.
What made you pick the songs that are on Steppin' Out?
I've been doing them for about 500 years.
But I mean, of all of the ones that you ended up choosing to be on there, it's a sort of like an autobiographical...
Yes. Yeah, well, they tell the story of my journey. And in doing so, those particular songs at a certain part of my life were very important to me. Jesus Christ Superstar, that was an important part of my life. Working with Tom O'Horgan, Corner of the Sky, Pippin is working with Bob Fosse, and the Sammy Davis songs that I choose, and My Way with Frank Sinatra, Wicked, was another part of my journey, and so these songs all have a personal vibration within me, and I like to share that with the people.
So sort of like a greatest hits of Ben live through the years, greatest moments that Ben
I guess you might say that
has been part of.
Yes.
When you were doing that, are there parts of that journey that resonate more strongly than others, so to speak? When you look back at all of those different eras and you sort of chose highlights, if you will, for Steppin' Out Live, what are the eras that really were crucial in developing who you are and the kind of bit that you're still doing?
Ooh, that's kind of hard because it was hard just selecting a few, because it's like asking me, which one of your children do you love the best?
Right.
You love them
Good
all
analogy.
the same. So it's kind of hard to pick and say, okay, this one, you'll come later. Just let me do this particular part right now. So, my journey has been wonderful, with all the ups and all the downs. The downs allowed me to get up, because a lot of people get into the down and they make it a career move. But my spirit within me had me get up.
It was as a result of a couple of tough challenges or
Sure.
valleys in your life that you started doing the motivational speaking?
Yes, indeed. I'm a bereaved parent. I'm a survivor of an accident in '92.
I know.
a survivor of drugs and alcohol because I'm from the 60s, and I want to give a shout out to the 12 coconuts here on the beach who meet every morning. How you doing, guys and ladies? You keep doing what you're doing because you're saving lives. So all these things, I grew up in the Pentecostal church in back in the States and back in the States, I'm in the States. And on
the mainland.
In the mainland, you might say. And one thing I learned is we would have we'd have testimony. And in testimony, you give praise for your day. Oh, I thank God for waking up this morning. Thank God for food on my table. I want to thank God, And this is my way of telling my story. You got to tell your story. And if you tell your story, maybe that'll help somebody. As I travel along my way, if I can help someone, then my living is not in vain.
Wow. So there's a sense of purpose behind all of it too, which is a real give back.
Yes.
In so many ways.
You got to give it away. You can't keep it. You got to give it away.
What made you're so musically inclined, what made you go with music that was more theater driven as opposed to just performance driven music? Meaning you've been attracted and been such a part of the theater world, yet your musical skill obviously and dimension could have gone in other directions too.
Yeah, well, theater is my I love theater because even when I do something that's out of the theater, I bring theatrics to it because it's all a piece of theater to me. When telling a story, a song is about telling a story about something that you are attached to. For me, it's from the inside out. Even a joyous song, it has a certain place in my heart that I can convey to you. So they all are theatrical to me. I just chose to go the theater direction because most of my repertoire is from the theater, and the people want to, they come to see my show. They don't want to hear me doing Usher. They want
to hear what you're known for doing.
And although I do admire the hip hop artists and all the other artists of today, yet and still I'm strong. I am what do you say, a component, or I'm trying to hold on to tradition.
A proponent of tradition.
Of tradition, yes.
All right, that makes sense, totally.
Yes.
Well, when you think of being young and like the first music that really inspired you, if you were to think about the artists who made you want to be a theatrical performer, what are the songs that are enduring that you still want to hear today as an adult?
It's that strange because I woke up this morning and I was playing the guy who really inspired me to get into singing, and that was not a guy who was in the theater. Matter of fact, he was in a church. And he was in a group called Soul Stirrers, and he broke away and went off on his own. His name was Sam Cooke, and I used to sing like Sam Cooke when I was in the church. And I had a little group called the Sensational Twilights of Brooklyn, and we were just these kids running around the streets singing. And then when I made it to the High School of Performing Arts, that was the first time I saw the theater. And the first song I heard, which I do in my show, was The King and I, and it was the first theatrical music I heard.
Wow.
And I remember going back to my junior high school and reenacting Puzzlement from The King and I.
That was one of my first theater things I related to.
Yes,
my parents took me to see Yul Brynner when
That's right.
a little
I
kid.
was in a production. It was an all-black production of The King and I at the Brooklyn Academy Theater of Performing Arts in Brooklyn. And it was called BAM. And there I was on stage playing the interpreter in this huge production with costumes and orchestra. And I was like blown away. Right. So where did they do this? And my teacher happened to take me to the theater for the first time.
So that's a crucial experience, what you're relaying here. This is like a catalyst experience in so many different ways. When you think, you kind of mentioned it, it's almost like your question or what your answer leads into this question. I've always been curious about the concerts or first live exposures that you had that maybe were also crucial. So you've mentioned maybe some artists or songs. What were some concerts or seeing something live, a performer, a specific performer that gave you the bug?
Well, you understand something. I'm from Brooklyn, and in those days, from my neighborhood, to this day, I can go back to Brooklyn, and there are people who've never been across the bridge to Manhattan. They say, I'm serious.
It's true.
They'll say to you, matter of fact, I tell you, I make a joke of it, but it's true. It's sort of an analogy. Some people felt they needed a passport to go from Brooklyn to Manhattan.
Right.
And so they never got the passport. And you ask them, why don't you go to Manhattan? Why don't you go to Manhattan? Everything I need is right here in Brooklyn. So my world was Brooklyn.
Right.
And when I went to Manhattan for the first time, was for the High School of Performing Arts. And the first really concerts that I saw was Norman Walker, who was a modern dancer, and his dance company. And that blew my mind. And I stayed in that vein. You understand? So I'm a kid, this kid from a poor family, and I couldn't afford to go to the theater. I'd listen to the other kids in class talk about, yes, sir, we want to see My Fair Lady today, and yes, Mom, and Mom took me to see Oklahoma, I couldn't afford to see those shows. So I'd walk up and down the streets of Broadway imagining what was going on inside those houses.